This is a song with two phrases in it. Thus it has two phrase models. Bars 1 to 4 are one phrase, then the first phrase, and the half cadence is there. Bars 5 to 8 is the second phrase, and it cadences with a perfect authentic cadence there. So the second phrase, the perfect authentic cadence, is stronger than the half cadence. And this kind of 8-bar setup is called a period, and there's different kinds of periodic structures, which we will learn about at the end of this semester. This is a very common type where you go in 4 bars and half cadence, and then bar 5 restarts like what was done at the beginning. In fact, the first couple of bars are almost identical. Bars 1 and 2 are almost identical to bars 5 and 6. But this time it ends. So it's like question phrase, and the second one is the answer phrase. I will play it now. The first 4 measures end with a half cadence, sounds like a question, and then the answer phrase comes to us in bars 5 to 8. Ready? Go. So example 11.10, which I just played, shows cadential 6/4 chords in the half cadence. That's bar 4. So it's a 5 chord with a 6/4 to 5/3 motion. And it also us it if the look at the last bar. So it's 6/4, 7/5/3. It says below, preceding 5/7, notice that the cadential 6/4 in measure 8, that is the last bar, leads not to a triad on 5, but rather to a 5/7. It says it appears as a E-flat, D-flat, C motion against the E-flat up here to the A-flat. Let's now go to the top of page 272 where it says the cadential 6/4 within a phrase. So we're going to be listening to a piece by Haydn. I think I'm going to play the piece first, the little excerpt of 6 bars, and then we'll talk about what Laitz says. So look at example 11.15. Here we go. Laitz says, so far we have studied cadential 6/4 chords that embellish the dominant chords at half cadences and authentic cadences. The authentic cadence, just for review, is either an IAC or a PAC. Now, despite their name, cadential 6/4 chords do not always occur at the cadence points. They can also, in fact, embellish a root position 5 or a root position 5/7 chord, including those inside of the phrase. And that's what we heard in the piece that I played, 11:15. For example, bar 1. There's a 4/3 in the melodic realm against the D in the bass. The soprano went G to F sharp, that's 4 to 3. Next bar, it's turned into the chordal realm with 6/4 to 5/3. The melody is D to B flat is 6 to 5. And you'll see down in the bass clef there's a G to F sharp. That's your 4/3. So let's go through that again. 4 to 3 melodically. 6/5 and 4 to 3 harmonically. That is a 5 with a 6/4 to 5/3. That is your cadential 6/4 chord. But it's not the structural one. In level 2A, that is an embellishing chord because we're not done with the phrase model. Now, level 2A, you can see that there is an EC embellishing chord in bar 1, EC embellishing chord again in bar 2, and over in the penultimate bar, the next to the last bar, there is what we call an IN, an incomplete neighbor chord, one that's harmonized with the F sharp on the bottom, and then with the G on the bottom. That's not a full neighbor motion, that's a half neighbor motion. A full neighbor motion would be G, F sharp to G, but this is just the F sharp to G, so it's an incomplete neighbor motion. That's what those acronyms stand for. Now, I've created for you in level 2A what I wrote in. I bracketed the 1/6 chord on beat 3 of the second measure, and then it goes to 2/6, and then a 5/4/2 to 1. And all of those are inverted chords. They're not structural, although it does resemble, in a way, the larger phrase model, which you would have to have a tonic chord, which would be the 1/6, the predominant, which would be the 2, the 5/4/2, which would be the dominant, and the 1/6, which would be the tonic. But because these chords do not fall at the end of the piece, and because they are all in inversions, they are not the real structural level 2B stuff. They do, however, resemble a phrase model, so we call it an embedded phrase model. It's a little mini-me fake version of a phrase model that is embedded inside of the level 2A. I don't remember if we've had that yet. In case we haven't, then you can ignore it, but it will be coming later. If not, then this is a good reminder for you that that is the embedded phrase model. It's a mini-me version of a phrase model, but it's not the real structural one. The structural one I have outlined in the turquoise color. Okay, let's listen to this one more time. I'm going to try to pace it as I see it in the level 2B, where I move forward all the way to the last bar when I finally cadence it. So the motion still needs to move forward. That's what the phrase model is for. It teaches us how to phrase the music that we perform or sing. Let's finish off our discussion now of this chapter with cadential 6/4 chords in triple meter. So triple meter presents two options of how or where this cadential 6/4 chord can align with the meter. So in option number 1, let's just listen to it. 1. Sing it with me. You notice in bar 2, preparation chord, suspension chord, resolution. That's your 6/4 to 5/3, all in a dominant chord. So option number 1 is this, where the cadential 6/4 falls on the downbeat. Okay. Now option number 2 is a little bit different. It's on the upper page up here. Let's see. It goes like this. This time it fell on beat 2 instead of beat 1 in the third bar. Let's listen again. 1 chord, 5, back to 1. Here's implied 2/6, cadential 6/4 to 5/3. Let's finish off with evaded cadences. What does the word evaded mean? If you're evading something, you're trying to stop something from happening or hide it or put it off. So in musical terms, this is how a composer thwarts our expectation of where we think a cadence is going to go, and the composer tricks us. Let's go down to the bottom to 11.17, presenting a piece by Mozart, who is one of the greatest musical tricksters and thwarters of all time. Let's see what this guy does. Okay, follow along. Ready, set, go. So I've circled in green where he tricks us. We thought we were going to get a half cadence there, and instead he goes, nope, just kidding. We're going to go from 5-6-4, but we're not going to drop down to 5-3. We're going to drop down to a 4-2 and then an actual 1 chord. So it's eliding the half cadence into a tonic chord at the end of it. Listen again. Phrases together, and the specific way he's done it here is 6-4. So it's so fa mi at the bottom. Now I know the key signature says 1 flat, which would say F major as the title, but this particular section of the piece is in C major, so that's why I'm saying it's so fa mi. That's how you do it. Now here's the recomposition. There's 6-4 to 5-3, and this time he's recomposed it as a PAC. Now the way he really did it was down to a 1-6, which is not a PAC. That's a contrapuntal cadence when it doesn't go to do. It's gone 5-6-4 to 5-4-2 to 1-6. An incomplete, weaker cadence. And the other way it can be done is to delay an inevitable cadence. We look at Joseph Bologna's harpsichord quartet in G minor. It's approaching the end of a section, and we'll see if he cadences here. Look at the phrase model. It says tonic, body, 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 ba, till the penultimate measure flips to a 2-6 predominant. The last measure flips to a dominant. What do you think you're going to get on the next page? Well, we're going to expect a tonic. Let's see what he does. Ready? Go. Oh, what's going to happen? How many bet this? That's what we expect, but let's see what he does. He tricks us. He finally did it there. Okay, let's go back again. I'm going to start like the last 2 bars. The page turn. Finally a cadence. And there you have it. This next one, letter B, is called cadential extension. And this is funny. You can see from letter B, there's a first attempt at the bottom and a second attempt, which is longer, and the third attempt, which is the longest. I'm going to make an analogy here that Laitz is actually going to use later in the book for something else. But let's just say you have a kid named John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, and he has not cleaned his bedroom. So if you're the parent, you yell at him, "John, clean your room." That's the first attempt. Being a kid, he totally ignores what you say and continues just to play with his toys. So then the second attempt is going to be more intense. In this case, it's going to be longer. So you say, "John Jacob, clean your room," with a little more angst in your voice. And again, he pretends like he did not hear you. So now you're really mad. And the third time is the most intense and the longest of them all. "John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, get upstairs right now and clean this room, or you're going to be on restriction for a week." So that's kind of how the energy goes when you do these evaded cadences. You know, if you don't make it your first attempt, then a second attempt is tried, and now the audience is like, when are they going to cadence? And finally it happens on the third one. And so it's kind of funny. Now this particular example is from The Magic Flute. If you haven't seen that opera, you simply must see that before you die. I've actually seen it 3 times live, and I've enjoyed it very much. It's got such a neat story behind it, and the music is so familiar and so delightful. So anywho, if you haven't heard any of it, here's my paltry attempt to play this example. Okay, so the first attempt to cadence, this is starting like a cadential figure with 1, 6, 2, 6, 5, 6, 4, and it didn't happen, so we're going to try that again. Third time. Okay, this time you pick your own part. You want to sing either bass line or one of those upper ones would be great. And you're ready, and go. First attempt. Second attempt. Turn. There we go. Finally, we got a cadence.
Der Arme kann von Sprache sagen, denn seine Sprache ist dahin. Ich kann nichts tun, was dich beklagen, weil ich zu schwach zu helfen bin. Ich kann nichts tun, als dich beklagen, weil ich zu schwach zu helfen bin. Weil ich zu schwach zu helfen bin, weil ich zu schwach zu helfen bin.
Die Königin begnadigt dich, erlöst die Schwache durch mich.
Und plaudert Papageno wieder.
Lüge
immer her, nein.
Die Schloss soll deine Frau sein.
Die Schloss soll deine Frau
Soll
sein.
deine Frau sein.
Ein solches Schloss vor Ehren und Stadt.